Hello, my name is Thomas Saunders, also known as Local Human, and I'm the author of NeoPython and neo-boa compiler for the smart contracts in the Neo blockchain. Today, just wanted to share a few updates with the project and give some quick demos of the new compiler and yeah. So a new version going ahead from 0.5.0 up to we are currently in the span of 3 days up to 0.5.2. But the main change is moving to Python 3.6. The previous versions only supported Python 3.5, and that was due to a restriction in the compiler. Um, So going forward, we're future-proof with NeoPython and the compiler, so we are very happy about that. I'm going to start off with just showing a basic migration. So we are on, let's see which Python we have. Python 3.5.2. We're on the old version, so if we want to move to the new version, we're just going to remove, well, let's deactivate our virtual environment first. And then just remove that virtual environment, and we are going to check out master, and I'm already up to date, so this isn't going to do anything. But so now let's create a Python 3.6 virtual environment. And on my machine, Python 3 is alias to Python 3.6, so when I do use this command, it'll create a Python 3.6 virtual environment. So let's check out, let's activate, and we see we have Python 3.6, so we are all good to go. So now what we just need to do is install the requirements and wait a bit. While we're doing that, we'll go over a few more of the changes. We've added a lot of new testing for the smart contracts, and added a convenient test build for running tests of smart contracts. And what that means for you is it's much easier to test your smart contract as you're writing it and make sure it's behaving like you would like it to. So in the BOA directory, our project, we have a file like this, which tests all the binary and some other math operations. Um, and then we would have a test for that to make sure that it's working as we expect. So test binops. So the basic syntax is use a test build command from the prompt, and if we look at the contract, it's expecting an operation and two operands. So we will send in an operation and two operands and run it through the VM and check the results. So you can see we're doing that for all the possible operands in the contract. We will get back to this a little later. We'll just see how our install is doing. Some other things that are new are some fuller documentation, which we're very happy about. So the main documentation that's been updated is basically showing you what I'm going to be showing you today. It'll kind of start you all the way from the beginning within the NeoPython prompt, having a smart contract like this and compiling it, compiling and testing it, And that'll walk you through these contract parameter types and the importing, and then finally test invoking your contracts. So after you've watched this video, you can always go to neopython.readthedocs.io and check out the documentation here. Another addition to the documentation is some clear documentation on common data types in NeoPython. So if you're wondering what a script hash is, or a uint 160, or a fixed date, then come on over here and check it out. Let's see how our install is doing. Oh, we've got it. So, all right, we are all set to go. And we can start off by starting out the prompt. And if you remember, starting the prompt with no arguments will start you on the test network. So there we are. One other common thing that people don't realize they can do is if you're starting out fresh and you don't have the chain synced, there is a bootstrap command. And what this is going to do is download an already synced chain for whichever network you want. So the default is to download the chain for network, or for the test network. I've already got it, but so I won't do that. But that might take a little while. It's a big file, but you can do that for a test network. And if you add the M flag, that'll do that for the main chain. One other thing that NeoPython is now doing is serving notifications. So notifications are stuff like in a NEP5 contract that's transferring tokens from one address to another. There's a transfer notification that occurs. And NeoPython has the ability to track those notifications. We don't store those in the main chain database. We store them in a different one. So if we want to download the notification database, you add the N flag, and that will bootstrap your notification database. We've already got that, so we will cancel. So let's see. One other thing that you should probably know. Let's use the cause test network. And there was a change in, let's go back to the change log, in wallet encryption. And there was a security vulnerability with the old version of the wallet, so we need to fix that, obviously. So if you try to open a wallet that has not been migrated with the new changes, so let's try open wallets cause 2. You're going to get this error. So could not open wallet, currently vulnerable. If this happens, just exit out of the prompt, and you could say Python re-encrypt wallet.py coz. What this is going to do is ask you for a new password and reformat the wallet into a new version of the wallet, which is now secure. And where it's going to save it is just this previous spot where it was with a new prefix before it. So we can then open that. Say open new 2. Checking password. There we go. So with that, I think we will go over some of the changes in the compiler, just because there was a lot changed and you can do a lot more now than that you couldn't previously do. So I think for this video, I will create a new contract, and let's call this demo1.py. And let's see, and we'll just start out pretty simple. So let's open up the prompt again, and we'll compile that. Need some elevator hold music for our password encryption, decryption mechanism. Do do do. Okay, here we go. So the first thing we'll do is just build the contract, and that is in neo. Use a relative path, go down one directory from the main neo installation directory, neo-boa, and let's see where we are. Boa test, example, demo1.py, and that's not found. So boa underscore test. Let's see. Also not found. Example, demo. Oh, I put it in the wrong package. Let's move that here. One more time. There we go. So, save that output. So this is the most basic build command, and it just compiles your contract into the AntShares virtual machine format. And that can be used within NeoPython, or you could use NeoGUI or another tool to deploy this contract to the blockchain. Let's see. Let's show it. I think I'd set up this to ignore AVM files, but you're going to have to trust me that it's there. So the next command is, we don't want to only build, we want to build it and test it. So let's do the same thing. We will add the test flag, and it's not going to be accepting any parameters, so we'll send it that, and it's going to return a Boolean, and it does not use storage, and it does not use dynamic invoke, and we won't send it any parameters. Let's see. So what this did is it recompiled and invoked the smart contract with no arguments. And the result is a Boolean type, and the value is true. So let's just return false. See what happens. And the result is false. So you might wonder, where is this print? One thing that it's good to know is general awareness of events in NeoPython. They used to be on by default, so a lot of times you would open up the prompt and just be flooded with events from smart contracts that are coming on the network. So we changed that to be off by default. So if you want to view smart contract events, there's a command, this config sc events on, and that turns on smart contract events. So then we can build this again, and you'll see we get some events. So the first one is the smart contract.create, and that's when this test build, it actually creates the contract before it can actually run it. The runtime log here, we can see the result, the payload for that event is hello. And then the smart contract execution success, and that's dispatched anytime a smart contract exits successfully. So let's change that up to something a little more interesting, I guess. Um, Maybe we will accept an argument called operation operand 2. And let's say if operation is equal to cool, return, well, that's no fun. Add operand 1 plus operand 2. Okay, let's try that now. So what happens if we run this without updating any parameters? We're going to get a lot of errors. So NeoPython doesn't like it if you have a contract that accepts arguments, but you don't give them any arguments. So let's make sure. We're going to say it takes a string, 0202, and two integers, and we're going to say it returns an integer. And if you're wondering about these 07, 02, 02, you can take a look at NeoPython project. There's a Neo smart contract module, and there's a contract parameter type. So in that file, you'll see all the different contract parameter types that you will use when you're invoking and accepting arguments and returning. So let's change that, and now we're going to say add and 1 and 2. So we still get this runtime notify of hello, and execution success is 3. And you can see the result here is an integer of 3. That's what happens if we do add blah. You'll see in the contract it will fall through to return false. But since we are expecting an integer, it's going to do its best to cast the result of false to an integer, which ends up being 0. Now let's just do subtract just to make sure. There we go, we get -1. So let's do something more fun. Let's have a list here. 1, 2, 3, 5, 9. And maybe we will take out our operands. And what I'm going to demonstrate is that previously, to be able to use items from a list, you'd have to say L1 is equal to mylist 0. L2 is equal to mylist 1. L1 plus L2. You couldn't do this. In the previous version. But with new improvements to the compiler, we can do exactly that. So maybe we'll accept an index, x2, idx1, idx2, and we'll do the same thing for subtract. Okay, so let's do add 1, 2. So did that work? Let's see. Integer value of 5. So it took the index 1, should be 2, and index 2, added them. So that looks correct. Let's do sub for 0. Interesting. Let's do sub for 1. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, that is correct. So this takes the 4th, which is 9, and subtracts the first item in the array, which is 1, and returns 8. So we're all good. So some other things which you could not do in the past was do array or do anything special in method calls. So let's just do my method 2c and my method 3j turn j plus 1. So what we're going to do is do return my method, and we'll say my method 2, my list are idx1 and my method 3, my list idx2. So let's think this out. So if we pass idx equal to 0, idx2 is equal to 1, let's do 1, 3. So this will be 2. My method 2 will return 4. And my method 3, it's also going to return 4. So let's try it out. Oh wait, 0, 1, 2, 3. No, that's going to return, it's going to be 10. Fun. 1, 3. There we go. So what this is demonstrating is just the ability to do a lot more within method calls and array accessors than you could previously do. It'll make your contracts a lot easier to read. Well, not easier to read, but easier to make. Whereas in the past, you would have had to do Now, like M1 is equal to my list, IDX1, M2 is equal to my list, IDX2, MR1 is equal to my method, M1, MR2 is equal to my method, M2, return my method, MR1, MR2. So we're used to take 5 lines, you can do it all in one. So we are very excited about that. And another thing it works for is concat. So from boa code built-ins import concat. We'll do my str list. So let's do return concat my IDX. So you have a lot more ability to do kind of recursive methods and stuff. So. Ooh, that's interesting. What happened there? Not enough items to concat. Am I missing parentheses? No. 0, 1, 2, 3. Well, I'll look at that later. I'll update this example and commit it into the repo. So, that's a basic demo of new changes and improvements to the Python compiler. Let's see. The next step is let's write some tests just to make sure that this contract is operating like we want it to. So we'll go into, I'm just going to copy one of these and just call it test demo. Example. Demo demo1.py. Get rid of these. Let's see. All right, we are going to send it. Let's see. Add. And 1, 3. And update the parameters in here. 202. Let's just run this test, and it looks like it will probably fail. Let's see. Switch to the neo-boa directory, so we're going to do source v and v. bin activate. So do Python m unit test and boa test test demo.py. Let's see. So it ran the test and it got a result of 7, and it's not 4. So let's just make sure that that's what it should be. So we added in, so we are adding 2 and 5 and returning 7. So it's correct, it should be 7. Let's run that again. All right, our test passed. And so what you can do with this is, add more invokes. So let's see. Let's change the parameter here. So we're going to add 3 and 5, so it'll be 8. So now it'll test that twice, and we can make sure that it's doing what it should be doing. One of the best reasons to have this is that as the code base changes, as we'll be, adding more support for dictionaries or what have you, what we can essentially do is just run all of the tests, which all of these tests in this example directory here are being tested in these. So we can run the test and make sure that none of our changes are breaking any existing functionality. And you can do that by just running, let's just do them all. So you can run a single test like this, or you can do discover boa test. And what that's going to do is look for any tests in that boa test directory and run them all. And it takes a little while. While it's doing that, let's just add another demo. There is one more thing that you should probably be aware of. And in the old version of the compiler, you would do from boa.blockchain to vm.neo.runtime import get trigger. So if you wanted to get the trigger of what kind of trigger it's running, you could do what has changed in this recent version is that this package has been moved. This is a little long, and it doesn't really say exactly what it does. So it has been moved to the boa.interop layer. Let's see. So if you have an existing contract and it's no longer compiling, you can do search for this, replace it with boa.interop. And it will be all good. Now let's just see. Let's say operation, we'll just return the trigger. Oh, still running tests. And let's go into the Python prompt. And we'll do demo 2. Test O2 false, false. And we're casting the result to an integer, but it should be a byte array. There we go. Another thing you can do is from boa.interop.neo.trigger type and say let's return triggers equal to application. We're casting that to integer, which is 1, to Boolean, and there we go. So one other major change with the compiler is we have deprecated support for classes. What this means for you is if you're using the neo-ICO template put out by Next, there is some usages of classes. So we had class token with all of these things. And the problem we had with that is it just wasn't very reliable and very liable to create bugs. So we, going forward, at least for now, will not be supporting classes. And if you're wondering, oh no, I'm using the ICO template, what should I do if I want to use a new compiler? Within the demo directory, we've ported the ICO template over. So it's got pretty much the same stuff with pretty much the same structure, but instead of using classes, it just uses imports modules. So instead of importing the token class, we're just importing module level variables, and they can be token total supply, or they can be methods. And once again, there is full testing for all of the methods in the ICO template, so you can rest a little easier as you're coding. Okay, so we ran all the tests and everything was good. Let's see, is there anything else that you should know? I think that's about all we have for right now. Well, at least we can deploy one of these contracts. So if you haven't before, you can import a contract. Neo-boa test example demo 1.avm, and it took 202 return 2 false. We got demo 1.1 Sunners neonexchange.org demo contract. So you'll notice that if you don't use storage and you don't use a dynamic invoke, it's not going to cost the 500 gas. If you're just using a contract with no storage, it'll only cost 90. Let's cancel. If you do the same thing and use the storage API, see it costs 490. And I've got a lot of gas, so, oh man, now I have to fill it out again. We'll do false, but I don't need it. Don't have that much gas. Okay. So what we're doing right now, that deployed the contract on the network, or it's in the process of doing so. We will just wait for a few moments. Could not find that transaction. With the smart contract events, it'll be pretty obvious when the contract comes in. There it is. So when it does that, we can look up the script hash from here. Let's see, contract. And there we are. So let's just show off the test invoke a little bit. I'm going to add 1, 2. Let's see, is that correct? Demo 1. Add, where's it? This is index 1, index 2. That is correct. So we don't need to invoke that on the network. Let's do it again. Let's invoke this on the network. And once again, we'll wait for it do the round trip. And when it comes back, we'll see all of the notification events, like this runtime log. When it comes back, it won't have this test mode flag. And there we go. So we got our runtime log. It's not in test mode. And now, I think that's it for today. Thanks for listening. If you have any issues, please get in contact with us. Join the let's see, the Neo Discord. Where is the Neo Discord link? That's fine. So this is the Neo Discord. Just Google it and you'll find us. If you're having any issues, read the documentation as I said before. If you think you found a bug, make an issue on the repo. And if you found a bug and you want to make a fix, or if you have a feature request and you want to make a fix, feel free to make a pull request. We are always looking for contributors, and City of Zion is great because of the community, and NeoPython is great because it's not just me, but it's Meta Chris, it's IXJE, Brian Lenz, many great people helping to maintain NeoPython and move it into the future. So if you want to be one of those persons and possibly earn some rewards from the City of Zion reward system, then join us. Thanks again, and see you later.